All right. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Well, we are live, and I'm Coach Sandy. I'm joined by Coach Gina here from our from our HMR program in Natick, Massachusetts. And we've got a couple of her clients along with us. We've got Sherry. Say hi,
Hello.
Sherry.
Hi, everybody.
And Terri.
Hi,
So
everybody.
welcome, everybody. We met up yesterday, and I think I can speak for all of us here that we're really looking forward to this event. And we're excited to discuss a really important topic with each other and with our viewers here. And our topic is advocating for yourself when it comes to prioritizing your healthy lifestyle behaviors. So if you came for that, you're in the right place. I think everybody's in for a treat. Getting to know this group of women here has just been a delight, and they've got so much to share. So I'm going to give them a chance to talk in just a second, but I want to just let everybody know, because you may be wondering, I'm in phase 1, I'm in phase 2. Is this appropriate for me? Yes, you're in the right place. So whether you're phase 1 or phase 2 or just checking us out, this is an important topic because I think it's something we all encounter. The idea of enlisting support from friends and family members who can make an incredible difference in making weight management easier, because it's not easy, right? And so building a support system can really play a huge role in that. So welcome if you're here for that. And like I said, building a healthy support system, begin thinking about that, viewers. And we're going to be asking you some questions about your experience with that. All right. So Gina, you want to just take it from here and we'll get into meeting our guests?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, I just want to thank my guests for being here tonight and joining us on this Facebook Live event. You guys are in for a treat meeting these two. So I've worked with both Terri and Sherry for a very, very long time, both in phase 1 and phase 2, and they're going to share their stories with you. They both have really successful and compelling stories to tell. So Terri, let me start with you. And you originally did the HMR program some years back and did phase 1, lost some weight, but left the program and had said that was just a big mistake. Came back to HMR and lost some weight again in phase 1 and left the program and said it was a mistake. And then when you came into Natick, entered phase 1 and lost some weight, but then decided to stay and lost all of your weight, or most of your weight in phase 2 over some period of time, about 94 pounds, which is amazing. And you said it was a mistake to leave. So I'm curious for you to tell us about your experience and why you said it was a mistake to leave the program.
Sure. I'll tell you, I think when you lose your weight, you think you got it. You know, you lose your weight, you say, okay, this is great. I lost my weight. And now I'm going to just go out and keep this off. And it doesn't really happen, or at least it didn't happen for me. So when I left, I kept it off for a little bit, and slowly but surely the weight came back, and, you know, life went on and I didn't pay much attention to it. And then I decided, well, maybe I'll go back one more time and see what happens. And at that time, it was actually not in Natick. I didn't even know there was, I live in Natick, Massachusetts. I didn't even know there was a program in Natick, Massachusetts. So I actually did the program in Newton with Bill Reese and Nancy. And I did okay, but again, my heart just wasn't in it. And so a friend of mine at work, I noticed, had lost a lot of weight. And I asked her, and she said, I go to this program called Health Management Resources, HMR, in Natick. I said, in Natick? She said, yeah, at the hospital. So I said, well, what do I have to lose? I'll give them a call. Well, I had plenty to lose by that time because I had lost all my weight and gained it back and more. And so I made a phone call. Gina answered the phone. And I have to tell you, it was the best phone call I made in my life. And I'm not lying. So from that moment on, she said, sure, come on in. I came in, and guess what? I did okay, but I just wasn't in the frame of mind yet. I don't know why. I did all right, but I wasn't as successful as all the people around me in the classes. So finally, finally. In the meantime, I had lost my husband, so I really, and my dad. So it was a tough time. And you know, when you're in a situation like that, what do people want to do? They want to feed you. You know, they to make you happy, it's food. You know, food is love. So I knew at that time that I really, really had to do something. So I came back. I started out in phase 1. And to be honest, I struggled. So Gina said, look, maybe you need to do healthy solutions and do phase 2. And all of a sudden, a light went off. And 10 years later, I'm here, 94 pounds. Well, it was 100 pounds up until a couple of weeks ago when I went on vacation, but it's 94 pounds lighter, and I've never looked back. And it's it's been a lifesaver mentally and physically for me. And I have to just, before I do anything, I really want to just give a shout out to the people here in the class, in my class on Wednesday. We call it the Breakfast Club. And without these people, I don't know that I would be able to maintain what I'm maintaining. We support each other. And so all of you guys, if you're listening, thank you.
Wow. Incredible. I had to put your picture up here on the screen for everybody to see, you're just, a visual of your accomplishments here in the program. Incredible. We've got folks commenting that know you and are just so proud of you. And
Wow.
Yeah, in fact, Oshin, we all know Oshin, right? He's a staple here on our Thursday night Facebook Live.
Absolutely. And he's been an inspiration, even though I've lost my weight. People like Oshin, he's an inspiration. He's an inspiration to all of us. Yeah. And I could name each and every one of the people in that class on Wednesday mornings. And I have to be honest, I'm usually in maybe minimum of 2 classes a week. So I know a lot of the clients, and we help each other. So, and that's why I think attendance is just so important. It really, really is.
I agree. I'm going to stop sharing that.
I'm sorry. I think I'm just talking too much.
Oh, you're great. No,
Very excited.
It's great. I want to hear it all.
In fact, you have a good story to tell, Terri. You have a good story to tell.
That was absolutely. Gina, I don't know if you had any more, anything else you were going to ask Terri at all before we hear from Sherry. I don't want to rush along at all.
No, I think.
Go ahead, Gina, and tell them that I never did any PA.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
So, the beauty of working with people for a long time is you get to know each other pretty well, and you can joke back and forth. And so when I first was working with Terri, oh my goodness, she just did not want to do PA, and every plan and every reason not to. And now PA is a huge part of your world. So it just goes to show you too. I think the message is that it never failed. Just keep trying at it, because you kept trying at it. You never, God bless you, you kept going with me. You didn't give up on me, and I didn't give up on you. And so that's a fun story to share. Now she does PA all the time. So in attendance, I think that's probably your really your benchmark really of your success is coming in and really getting so much out of the meetings. And so that's why, I think the transition from having gone to those programs and leaving, and then now staying for this program for such a long time, you can really see the stark difference between, what you get when you do attend. You get support, you get reinforcement, you get accountability. And I think you would agree with that. So maybe you can say that in your own words.
Well, it's true. It really is. If I didn't have these weekly or bi-week, I come, like I said, a couple of times a week, it just keeps me, and I learn things every time I come. I learn something from each different class that I attend. That's my lifeline, is coming to these meetings. It really is. It keeps me on track, and nothing is perfect. I'm not perfect, but the beauty of it is we have the tools to know if I get off track a little bit, I can get back on, because I come to the class, I hear Gina, I can feel her, knowing that she knows that we're going to be okay. So it helps a lot.
It's exactly what we're talking about tonight. What you hit the nail on the head, Terri, when you said Gina never gives up on you. She's always in your corner. She's that, a part of your support system, and you're advocating for yourself by being there in the clinic, accessing that support for yourself that you absolutely need to help you stay on track with your healthy behaviors. Love it. All right. Well, I know everyone's just waiting with bated breath to hear from Sherry. And by the way, Terri, the support is rolling in here in our comments. And I want to read O'Shane's, and then we'll hear from Sherry. He's just so eloquent. He said, Sherry and Terri are two of the most amazing friends I have made throughout my HMR journey. My mother and Gina are a huge support, but these two ladies are also the real deal. Capital letters.
Thanks, O'Shane. Same to you.
All right. By the way, Sherry has been watching these Facebook Lives since we started in February of 2020. Just nice to have you on the other side of the camera now, Sherry.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's great to be here, and I hope that something that I say will resonate with someone the way other people's stories have resonated with me.
Absolutely. So Sherry, what would you add about how HMR supports you to be in action with your weight management?
Oh gosh. Tuesday, 2 days ago, was my 9th anniversary of joining the program. Which I realized when I sent in the picture. My before picture was taken April 12th, 2013. I've had a sort of a different kind of a journey than Terri's. One of the problems that I had was that I spent winters in Hawaii up until COVID. And so I was always needing to leave the clinic and move to the phone program. And looking back on it, I think I might have done it a little bit differently, because I was always anxious to maximize my time in phase 1 to try and lose as much weight as I could, because I'm not a fast loser. And I never really had any time to really transition and learn how to be in phase 2 or even healthy solutions, when sometimes I would move to that from decision free. So every winter, I was gaining back, part of what I had lost. So it's been a real struggle. And I've been in every phase of the program at different times. Right now, I'm back in decision free and doing really well. For me, the journey started, I made the decision to do this. I went to my wife, who's always has been my biggest support. I said, I was always the one who did the cooking and the shopping. And I said, I need you to take care of yourself. I need you to take care of yourself for the next while, because I'm going to have to go do my own thing. And it's going to be these, I'm only going to eat these foods, and I need not to have to deal with you and the food. And she said, absolutely. She came with me to the orientation meeting. She tried the food with me. She was wonderful. She was my cheerleader for PA and everything else. Well, just before I started HMR, she also started manifesting signs of cognitive impairment, and that's gotten worse over the years. I mean, we've dealt with all kinds of stuff. I mean, the second year when I came back from Hawaii and was in phase 2, we had a huge flood in our building, and I had to move out for a year and a half and live in an apartment in a different town. And I just kept charging on. I mean, we just did what we needed to do, and she was there supporting me. Mm-hmm. Well, my support has eroded for no fault of anybody's own, and I'm on my own. And there was a while there, I would say 2 years ago, when things were really bad. And what made it worse for me in my weight loss journey was that I had to take over cooking for her and shopping and all of that. And I had to deal with that food on a daily basis. I wasn't able to get around it. And the good news about things getting worse is that now I get a meal service in. So I'm back to not having to deal with it. And we have 24/7 care. So I don't have to deal with her food anymore. And that's, while everything else has gotten harder, that's gotten easier. And I'm grateful that I have the resources to be able to do that, because if I were stuck having to cook, I don't think I'd be able to do it. I mean, I envy and not envy. I'm awed by the people who have young families and have to do this program while they're cooking for kids. I don't know how I could do it, because for me, it's all been about environmental control to keep myself out of out of that place.
Yeah.
So, so I've been up and down and up and down, but for me, the biggest achievement of HMR for me is finally changing my relationship with food. And I owe so much to Gina for that, because in addition to all of the wonderful cognitive behavioral strategies and approach that HMR offers, she brings mindfulness and a real willingness to engage on the emotional stuff with us. And that's exactly what I needed, that combination, and also from the community to provide that emotional support. So right before COVID that winter, I was struggling, and I said to her, look, I'm committing to be totally honest about everything that I'm doing. And I'm going to, for a while, I was sending her an email every day to say, this is what I did, and this is how I screwed it up, and that was advocating for myself too, I guess. I mean, I said, I need this, I need this level of support. But in any event, all of that, dealing with, wow, that's kind of startling, isn't it, when you see it like it's like, just as an aside, I mean, looking at these pictures, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm sure not where I was.
There you go.
Anyway, so at this point, I'm in a very dark place in my life. My wife is not doing well. She's probably entering the end stages of dementia. I'm roiling with grief constantly and having to deal with I don't know what on a daily basis, and I'm not eating my feelings. I've been able to get to a place where I can sit with them and realize that it's not going to help. It's just not going to help. And, I think a lot of my problems were caused by the fact that my mother died when I was 13. She was a woman who ate emotionally. I saw her doing it. And then when she died, nobody encouraged me to mourn in any kind of a sensible way. And I stuffed down my feelings, and I've been stuffing stuff down ever since. Well, I'm not doing that anymore. And for me, that's been the single most life-changing thing about this whole journey. And I couldn't have done it without the support that I've gotten, without the community, without Gina, without all of you, and the wisdom that you provide and the strategies that you have provided in the program. And, if I slipped up, 3 weeks ago, I was out of the box, and I went into Gina and said, Gina, I'm out of the box, help me. And she said, remember, the box is a safe place. It's your life is out of control right now, but you can control that. And it was like, oh, phew, yeah. And I got right back in, and I'm fine now. So, the help is there, the support is there. The wisdom is there, and I'm so incredibly grateful. And that's why I wanted to be on this event tonight, just to give something back to this community that has given me so much. So thank you all.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing, both of you ladies. Your stories are so inspiring. Your journeys that are ongoing. We talked before the call how it's not you lose weight and then everything's great. You never put it back on, and there you go. You just can go on with life and not have to think about it. No, that's a fantasy. That is a fantasy.
Can I add one thing to Sherry's story, just as her coach? So
please, Gina.
I would say that, in addition to Sherry learning not to eat her feelings, which is a big sort of buzzword out in the diet culture, I think what she also has through this process, this program, and the support is a whole bunch of skills and a whole set of tools to know what to do in that moment. Because sure, you don't have to eat your feelings, but then what do you do? So she's got this toolbox to work with. She's got more is better with her meal replacements, right? She's got the midweek check-in. She's got records. She's got PA. I mean, there's all these skills and tools that you've acquired in addition to that knowledge. And I think put those two together and you're in such a good place. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, well, plus I've got the community. I mean, there was one Zoom meeting a couple months ago where I just got on and I said, I need a hug. And everybody on the screen just went like this, and it was awesome. It was really awesome. And it was just what I needed,
That's what we're talking about here, gathering your community around you and having that support when you need it. And even when you don't, knowing it's there makes all the difference. Having a Gina in your life and, your classmates, if you're in a group coaching session weekly, or even it could be your family members, could be your coach at the gym, inspiring you to keep moving. So thank you again. We're going to, of course, hear more of your stories as we weave in our topic of the evening, which is living a healthy lifestyle, how to advocate for yourself. You've already heard these ladies talk a little bit about what that looks like for them. I love your story, Sherry, of telling your wife, you know what, from this point on, I need you to take care of your own food so that that's not a temptation for me. And she was all over it, love that. That's what we're talking about. It's basically asking others for what you need. Part of your story that I'm remembering, Sherry, is that when you went back to Gina's class this last time, phase 1, you said, treat me like I've never been here before, like a newbie.
Right.
And that's advocating for yourself,
Yeah.
asking for what you need. So let's hear a bit more about that, Terri and Sherry. From your perspective, why is it so important to advocate for yourself?
I'll speak to that for a second. I think no one else is going to advocate for me.
Exactly.
I
Just what
have to
was
do
gonna say.
it. Yeah, I have to do it. I will tell you the support that we get from our I'll call them our colleagues in the classes is phenomenal. I mean, there's never an issue. We advocate for each other, but we each know ourselves the best. And I know for myself that if I don't speak up, I could be swayed very easily. So I have to stay strong and say, no, this is my new lifestyle. I want to be healthy. I'm not getting any younger. And it works. It really does. But you have to have a talk with yourself almost every single day.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, Sherry?
Well, I would add to that, one thing that I was thinking about this as we were preparing for this session. I've never been a drinker. It just wasn't part of my family's culture. And I spent graduate school in England, and that's a very big drinking culture. And I would watch people bow to peer pressure around drinking, and nobody ever bothered me. And I was thinking about that. And I think the reason people don't bother you about things like food or drinking or some of these other bad habits, it has to do with how you present yourself. And if you present yourself as on the fence, it's like they smell blood and they go in for the kill. But if you just say, no, I'm not interested, people will leave you alone. And at its very essence, that's advocating for yourself. That's saying, I'm firm and I'm solid in my decision. And what you say really isn't going to affect me. And I think without that, you're vulnerable.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think the thing I found, I don't know, Sherry, if you find it too, or other people who are listening, is after a while, people get used to it. They don't think about it anymore. Especially, like you said, if you start to give in to all these little temptations, oh, she's just on another diet, big deal. But if you stick to it long enough, they start to get it, and they don't even expect anything else from you than being, healthy or trying to eat healthy or exercise or whatever. So I think it does come. It takes time, but people do get it.
Yeah,
I always
no,
say
and
that they follow your lead. They follow your lead.
Yes,
you
right.
lead and they follow eventually. And the hardest part is that initial leading time, and I think that's what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, go on, Sarah. Sherry, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you either. Yeah, I mean, it was like my family, my whole family has been really supportive. And, 1 year on my birthday, my grandchildren gathered around and gave me an apple with a whole bunch of little candles stuck in it.
Oh, that's great.
I think that we also have to think we're setting examples for the people in our family and for our friends, and particularly the little ones, that, not just an example of eating well, that's certainly important, or exercising, but an example of advocating for ourselves and being able to stick up for ourselves and ask for what we need, ask for help if we need it, and say, this is how life is for me.
I love it. This topic is coming at such a timely point for one of our viewers, another Terri. There's a theme here of names that rhyme with Terri and Sherry. She said, and my heart goes out to you, Terri. I just spent the last 18 months advocating for both my parents before they passed. And during that time, I put myself on the back burner and lost my way. And sorry, my screen jumped. Now is the time for me to advocate for myself. Now is the time.
Yep.
Every day we need to wake up thinking that, right? Now is the time. Today's the day. I ask for what I need. And one of you said, you know, others around you begin to understand what your needs are and support you. And it's kind of a training ground, right? When we start doing that and telling folks around us what we need the most, it kind of gets, then they know what to do. Because how often do people want to support us, but they don't know what to do to give us what we need?
Yeah. Well, you know, I've had friends say to me, you're not fun to go out with anymore.
No,
You know,
I find that hard to believe.
in the beginning, you know, and I would feel bad. And then I thought about it, but it makes me feel worse to be overweight.
Yeah.
So you just have to keep putting, you know, there's something we always say, what is your why? And I always want to remember my why, because, you know, I was miserable. You wouldn't know I was miserable on the outside, but I was miserable being overweight, and it affected me in many different ways. So I think back on those days and say, I'm not going to let that happen again, you know, so we'll see.
Well, we've got some examples to share of what it looks like to advocate for yourself, or some situations that are common. But before we move on, any last thoughts on this topic before we jump in, Gina?
I was just going to add that I think, you know, the world that we live in makes it really difficult to manage your weight, right? To practice the healthy lifestyle behaviors. So I think that you really, you have to advocate for yourself, because the world isn't going to. And it's not even just the foods that are out there, but it's just sort of the general climate. I mean, we all have heard of, oh, you can have a cheat day, and sort of there's that mentality, right? Or the part-time dieter, the one who, I diet, you know, Monday through Friday, and I take the weekends off. And so people really they're sort of immersed in that thinking. And so then here you come along as an HMR person wanting to be 7 days in the box, and people don't really get it. So I think people really do mean well. I don't think they, most of the time, and they just don't really understand it because there's this climate and this culture that we have around the part-time dieter, and the cheat days are okay. And that can make it really difficult.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So we do need people in our corner to go the long haul, you know, and building up that support system is kind of what we're talking about tonight. We did identify ahead of time a few common scenarios we often hear where advocating for yourself would really make a difference. Of course, there's more than 3, but we only have so much time tonight. So let's unpack and talk about just these 3 very common scenarios. So the first one we hear quite often is, and this is a general quote, we're not quoting any one person, but the feeling of, I don't want people to know I'm on another diet. So you kind of keep your program a secret. So that's a tough one. Let's get into talking about that a little bit.
I think that's a big mistake. I think it's a huge mistake because it's almost like if you're not willing to be open about it, it's almost like you're expecting yourself to fail, or you're ashamed. And shame is something I have learned over my journey is totally paralyzing. Shame has never motivated anybody to do anything. And that's why I made a commitment to just face whatever it was that was going on, because and learn not to judge it, because I'm not a horrible person because I've got issues. Everybody's got issues. I'm a good person who has some issues, you know, I mean, and I'm trying to deal with them, you know, and that makes me a brave person. You know, it doesn't make me a horrible person. And if I fail on occasion, that just makes me a human person. And so I think that's also related to what I said before about how you present yourself. It's like, A, if there's nothing wrong with me being on a diet, why shouldn't I talk about it? B, if I really want people to accept my needs as being valuable and worth supporting, I need to put them out there, which means I have to talk about it. And sometimes it's going to be unpopular. I mean, one of the things I did when I first started HMR was we had been in a habit of like having dinner at our various grandchildren's houses on a weekly basis. I stopped going. I couldn't deal with it. I said, I'm sorry, I'll come play with you. Sometimes Carol would go over there, I'd drop her off. She'd have dinner with them. And I'd come afterwards and play with them.
Yeah.
I just, avoided the whole dinner time because that was what I needed to do to be
advocating
successful.
for yourself, right?
That's right. And, I had to tell him why. I mean, it wasn't like, I couldn't have said, well, I'll just slip in later. Don't worry about me. I'm just weird. But, I said, no, I'm trying to lose weight. It's important to me. I want to be healthy. I want to be around to see these kids grow up. So this is what I need to do. And I've been lucky. I have not ever really encountered anybody who wasn't supportive of me. I mean, I had friends who said, okay, you don't want to go out to dinner? How about I got a Groupon for a cruise on the Essex River. Let's go do that.
Yeah.
Or, let's go for a walk or something back when I could walk. And, it was good. It's been really good. But I think that the reason that I've had that response is because I've been willing to say every step of the way, this is what I'm doing. It's important to me. And, I'm sorry if it screws up your life, but this is what I need to do so I can be around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people struggle because I think they're afraid of people's opinions about them and that they're going to be judged.
Yeah.
And so I think that is why I think it's hard for people to say, I'm doing this program. And so I think maybe it's helpful to come up with, what do you say? Like how do you start that conversation for that person who might be struggling a little bit? Because you're in a place, Sherry, where you're very clear and confident about it, but there might be people who are saying, wow, that sounds great, but how do I get there?
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you're getting any comments. I'm having trouble reading the feed, Sandy, or I would be helping you. I can't really get to it.
So I can share what Bob's a regular with us while you're all thinking about what great question Gina just threw out there. How do you talk to people about what you're doing and enroll them? But Bob shared, people know that I've been on many weight loss programs and I don't care what they care about me being on HMR. It's about my health now, not my bad health in the past. What a great mindset to be in.
That's a great thing. Yeah, I totally agree with that, Bob. I really
Absolutely.
do. I know I probably had a little bit of harder time than Sherry with my group of friends because again, after you lose somebody, they want to help you. And the only way they could help, they thought, was food.
Right.
And I just had to kind of really say, look, this is the end of the line for me. I am going to do this diet. I love your support. I will probably do better with your support. But if you don't want to support me, then, sometimes, I actually had to give up a friendship because there was somebody who did not want to support me. And I think it's because they were looking at their own problems with weight. And I was putting it more in the forefront for them. And it's very, very sad. But again, we have to advocate for ourselves. We have to. There's no question.
So we were talking about this as coaches, just in preparing for this time together and just having our own little brainstorm. And one of the things that we hit upon is, the way we talk about our HMR program that we're on, if we think the word diet isn't going to get a lot of support from our family and friends, maybe put a different spin on it. Put health, I'm working on healthy behaviors. I'm trying to adopt some new healthy lifestyle behaviors or working on these skills so that I'm healthier. So put the health spin on it. Of course, fear in phase 2, that's what phase 2 is all about, right? Is moving forward with those health behaviors. So it doesn't end once you've lost your weight. You're still going to need that support long-term to have people in your corner who are going to encourage you. Now, you're not going to hit a home run with everybody. Right? Just know that going in.
Yep.
Squash that expectation and let those positive voices be stronger in your head than the negative ones, for sure.
I think that this also speaks very specifically to why attendance is really important because when we're in a class with our cohorts, we know that everybody is coming from the same place. And that that's a place you can just kind of relax and just know that everybody gets it.
Right.
And sometimes that's a real relief. And, rather than regarding the need for attendance as some kind of burden, you should regard it as a privilege that allows you to have those moments of freedom and relaxation in this battle that we all are struggling with. It's a time you can kind of put your gear down and just say, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I found it very easy to say to people, look, I'm still the same person. I just want to eat differently and I want to exercise. It's still me.
Yeah.
And that's tough for people because, again, people get used to who you were and you were fun and you went out and you ate and you drank and did all this stuff. And once you put, a halt on that, it's difficult. But I kept saying to them, I'm still me, honest to God, I really am. They would laugh. They would. And, again, like I said, sooner or later, it does happen that people get it. They do. They really do.
Yeah. I think too, investing time in having conversations are worth every ounce of effort and energy. And, it's sometimes terrifying, your knees are knocking, but it's so worth it to be able to say, look, I'm doing this. It's going to make my health better. I'm going to be around longer to enjoy our relationship. So here's what I need from you. If you could, whatever it is, when you bring home that dessert, do you mind putting it in the outside fridge? Because I'm not going to go out there, whatever it is you need. Get real practical too. Get very specific, not just support me. What does it mean? Because I think oftentimes our loved ones don't know what we need, how they can support us. So, I know we kind of veered off a little bit here, but I think it's a nice segue into our next scenario. And if you've just joined us, we're talking about, when you're working hard to keep up your healthy lifestyle, what do you need to do to advocate and ask for what you need from those around you? So Robin, a real successful client here with HMR, she says, I have found that people are very supportive when you let them in and let them know you're focused on your health.
Yep.
Wow.
That's so true.
I agree. Yep.
I agree with that too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
O'Sheen again. Everyone loves the friend who is the life of the party, eats, drinks, and it's all fun and games, but they're not the ones paying for it. Yeah.
Right.
Paying for it with their health. Yeah. Well, great conversation. Let's go ahead and look at another scenario that might have people less inclined to advocate for themselves. It sounds something like this. Just because I'm eating differently and making time for exercise doesn't mean other people's lives have to change. It's like, I don't want to impose. It's that kind of a feeling.
Yeah, or you don't want other people to feel like they can't participate in those fun things just because you're not.
Right. Yeah.
That kind
That's
of
another
thing.
way to look at it. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to see why people might feel this way, thinking that, I don't want what I'm doing to just interfere with what you got going on in your life over there. So let's talk about that a little bit.
The thing that strikes me first off is that's, again, so many of these scenarios are really expressing, what's the word, ambivalence on the part of the HMR person, or the diet, or whatever you want to call it. It's like, we've all had the situation where we buy the candy for the kids and it's not the kids who are eating the candy. And we say, well, we don't want to deprive them of the candy, but they're not the ones asking for it. And it's just a way that we use to rationalize what we want ourselves. And I think that there's a lot of ambivalence that people have. And I've had it, we've all had it, I think, because this is hard. And, there's a child a sort of bratty child in all of us who wants the ice cream and the candy and the cookies and all the pizza and whatever, and doesn't like the fact that we can't do that.
Yeah.
anymore, or at least how we did. And so I think a lot of these, the way to get beyond these scenarios is to really shore up your commitment to yourself,
Mhm.
and realize what it means to be going after better health.
Yeah. Right.
I
You
would
know-
say too that you're not asking people to change their lives necessarily. You're just asking people to support you as you make changes to your life.
Exactly.
Right. So there's the rub there. There's the spin on it a bit, you know.
Mhm.
You don't have to change. I may ask you to support me to, you know, put the cookies in the outside refrigerator or whatever you said, Sandy.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you can't eat the cookies. I'm not saying that. I'm just asking you to support me
Right.
as I go on this path.
Yeah.
And that's hard for people, I think, to make that distinction. So
Yeah,
I
and
had the situation where our families, two of our kids brought their kids to Hawaii for, you know, February vacation one winter, and they were renting a house down the street from the house where we live. And I said, "Would you mind keeping all of your snack food at your house? And we'll have dinner with you down at your house because you've got the bigger space. But I want to be able to get up and leave from there." And that was fine. Nobody got deprived of anything.
right.
And it was a way that I could control my environment and my interaction with it. And, you know, it worked out great. And most of the time, I mean, if we're talking about family, particularly, these are people who love you. They really should want to be helpful, you know, if you give them half a chance to and tell them how to do it.
I think some of this, though, often will come from the inside of us. Like, I think about how
Yeah.
many, you know, young parents I hear from who say they feel guilty over taking time to exercise, you know, and when they should be doing whatever it is, spending time with the family. So I think it can often come from our own feelings about feelings of guilt over, you know, things that are we're trying to prioritize, but we feel like maybe others, it may not even be spoken out loud, but we may feel like, oh, if I give time, you know, they're just not going to understand, or they're going to feel like they have less of me. So I think that's a very real struggle. Just using exercise as an example, going to, you know, spending a couple of hours away from home to go to the clinic and attend your group. You know, these are all things that you're making time for, you're prioritizing. That is part of advocating for yourself and getting what you need. But there is the other side of that, that at times it can feel like you're robbing somebody else of something. Yeah.
But I think, you know, if you think about it, they want to have us around when they want us around, and yet we're doing something that will keep us around long.
That is what I was hoping somebody would kind of dot that I with. Thank you, Terri.
You're welcome.
Well, there's also, you know, Gina's always saying in class the example from the airplane where they always tell you to put your own oxygen mask on first, because you're not going to be able to help anybody if you can't breathe.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a good analogy.
Really is.
So,
For sure.
so we're really talking about prioritizing yourself. If we were to kind of put it, you know, put it succinctly. And so let's talk about that just maybe just a little bit more. What are your thoughts about why that's important to prioritize yourself anyway? And I know you all mentioned, you know, we want to be around longer so that we can be in people's lives. Absolutely. Is there anything else to add, maybe even from our community folks commenting here? I'll just take a look at the chat here.
Well, while you're looking, I just say that, you know, I wouldn't be able to take care of my wife the way I can right now if I hadn't lost those 50 pounds I've lost.
Yeah.
And had more energy and had more stamina and got my knees fixed so I could walk. And, you know, I mean, it takes that oxygen analogy further. I mean, if you want to be able to help other people, you've got to have strength and health in yourself. And if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to have that. And then you're no good to anybody, and you're not any good to yourself either.
Yeah. And you know, I mentioned this a lot in the class. It's a lot of it. It's definitely good for physical health. But for me, it's good for my mental health. You know, to know that I'm doing something for myself rather than doing it for other people and always trying to be a people pleaser all my life. You know, you don't want to say no. Like I didn't want to do this, but I couldn't say no to Gina. So, you know, but you know, I think, you know, you're right, Terri. You just have to, we go back to the same word. We have to advocate for ourselves because it's important, and it will make us better people. For the people that even have a little doubt about it, it will make it easier for us to be around them and them to be around us.
Yep.
So I think the mental, I don't know if that's the right word, you know, means a lot. It does, means a lot, your physical health and your mental health. And there's no question about it. This program helps both. No
Yep.
question.
I would say too that it's important to prioritize your health. I have children and I want to be around for my children, one, but I also want to be a good role model for my children. And there aren't a lot of good, healthy role models for our kids. And I want to be able to model for them that it's okay to, you know, take an hour at the gym, and it's okay to, you know, speak up and say, you know, I need this, that, or the other. And that doesn't make you selfish. That makes you somebody who is taking care of yourself.
There you
So
go.
just to add to that, I think.
Well, I think we can summarize this section with what Robin M. is saying. You can't pour from an empty cup.
There you go.
I love it.
I like that.
Somebody needs to write that down if that's what you need to know. As you take time, you know, to shop for those veggies and fruits and prepare them and make time for exercise and, you know, plan your day out. You know, using that time is time well spent because you're pouring into yourself so you can give to others.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. All right. So let's move on here. Again, we're talking about advocating for your healthy lifestyle. And we are unpacking 3 scenarios, and I'm going to move on to our third one next. I want to get it right, so I've got it up here on my screen. That's what I'm messing with. All right. So this one, I think, this one hits home for me. It makes it especially hard to advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
When the good intentions of well-meaning family or friends threaten to undermine your efforts. So it might sound something like this, just to kind of grease the wheels here. Come on, honey, have a slice of pizza. It's Friday night. You can give yourself a break, right? How about, why can't you treat yourself to a cheat day? You've done so well. Or, I made this special food just for you.
That's a tough one.
Those are tough.
I think what makes it tough is all 3 of these examples come from a place of caring, right?
Right.
And I think that's, for me, that's the hard part about this particular scenario.
Yeah.
So let's talk for a minute about why comments or offers like this can be so hard. Gina, why don't you kick this off? And then Terri.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are well-intentioned, and I think people are trying to help. I don't think people really understand the slippery slope that it is of, you know, oh, just have one, because 1 leads to 2, leads to the whole weekend of, you know, eating, and then you're out of the box. And so there's that part of it. The other part, I think, is that when somebody mentions that, oh, just have a slice of pizza, you start to, there's like a little seed that gets planted in your brain, like, oh, well, maybe they're right. Well, maybe I can do that. Maybe they're right. You know, maybe they're right. Maybe I just need to do it that way. And so that uncertainty gets tossed around, and then you sort of lose your path. So I think those 2 reasons, I think, make it really, really hard for people. Terri, what do you think? You know?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, you know, I pulled off, well, not right now. I'm not hungry right now. Maybe later. And then later really never comes because something else will come up, or I'll get busy doing something else. So it's kind of avoiding the situation. And then there are times when someone is going to insist and say, come on, don't be ridiculous. You look great. You know, they flood you with compliments. So you think it's okay. And then, you know, sometimes you just have to say, you know, please, I'm okay. I don't want it, and I'm not going to have it. So let's talk about something else. And that's what you have to do. And, you know, I don't like to do that, but if people insist, then again, you have to stick up for yourself, because it's just not worth how you're going to feel the next morning when you get up and say,
Right.
oh, I screwed up again,
Yeah.
so it's just not worth it. That's not to say that sometimes it happens. And if it does, again, like I said before, thank God we have the tools in our toolbox to get right back into the program. But you try to avoid it as much as you can.
Yeah.
I have an anecdote that's not going to sound relevant, but it really is. So a number of years ago, this was before I started HMR, I was also on, in a different stage of my weight loss journey, and I decided I needed to do Hub on Wheels, which was like a 30-mile bike or 26-mile bike ride. And I trained all summer for this, and it was a very big deal. I'd never done anything like that before in my life. And so the day of the ride comes, and I'm, tooling along, and I get to one of the rest areas, and my wife had brought our oldest grandson, who was about 3 at the time. And he was sitting there with me, and I was exhausted. I hadn't eaten. It was the day after Yom Kippur. I already was like carb depleted, and I'd been too scared that morning to eat. So I was like not in good shape. And he's sitting there, and he's worrying about me, and he starts bringing me rocks. And he sits here, Grandma, and he gives me this rock. And then he goes to the parking lot, and he gets another rock. And he's giving me these rocks like I should take them with him as symbols of love, right? Little tokens of affection. Well, this is not what I needed, was extra weight to be schlepping around on my bike. So I said to him, Nathan, thank you. I really appreciate it. I know that you love me, and I know that you care, and I really appreciate your gifts, but I think I'm going to leave them here because they're kind of heavy. And, so extrapolate the gifts of the food, right? This is, I'm doing this because of its love, but I didn't have a story about the rocks. I could say that because it was rocks. If it had been cake, there was a story there, and I think we all have our stories around food. So the point is to kind of separate the story from the food and just let it be what it is and be able to respond to the sentiment and the emotion without having to respond to the thing itself.
Great story.
So many different approaches.
Yeah.
I want to share what Coach Kate put in our chat here. She said, when it comes to people offering you foods that are not on your eating plan or not on your list of things you want to be eating, what got me to my previous weight struggles was repeatedly saying yes to high calorie foods and telling myself in the moment that it would just be that one time. That's that slippery slope you were talking about, Gina. But then that one time would happen over and over until what happens next? Weight gain, right? Right. So lots of things in the comments. Be sure to take a look, folks. I'm keeping an eye on the clock so we don't go too far past an hour here. This is all such a great conversation, but food for thought. No pun intended. When you think about people who are repeat offenders of offering foods that you aren't eating or don't typically eat, having that conversation up front, I know you're doing this out of love, and I know it tastes good, or I know you want to see me enjoy foods I used to eat a lot. However, I'm kind of doing things differently now. So, if you offer me a bowl of fruit, I'm all over that. You want to spend time with me? Let's go for a walk, hike rather than sitting in a restaurant. Let's do it, so there's different ways you can approach it so that you are getting what you need.
Yeah. What I usually say to people, sometimes I sit on orientations with Gina, and the people come in and you can just see they're overwhelmed by information and what they're going to do. And I just say to them, just think of the prize at the end. Just think of it, because it's worth it. It's really, really worth it. And I think it gets through sometimes. So I don't know.
Absolutely.
I know we're short on time, but I'll just add too, especially with the holidays this weekend, I think it's come up in my classes this week a bit, and I think having the conversation with the intended folks, the family, the friends ahead of time.
Mm,
So don't wait until you're at the event,
right.
because then there's that awkwardness and there's that difficulty, but if you call them and you just say, hey, I just want to let you know X, Y, and Z, I'm going to bring this. I'm fine. I am happy. I've never been happier, or whatever.
Yeah.
I just thought I'd throw that in because we do have the holidays this weekend. So for what it's worth, that might help someone too.
I love it. Especially if you're on phase one. How
Yes.
many people assume you're miserable?
That's right.
Yes, right?
I'm not
Exactly.
miserable.
Oh, you poor thing. You poor thing. Yeah, no, fine.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a really great point. Have that conversation ahead of time. It is so much easier, for sure.
I remember when I was in phase one, I was just telling Gina this a little while ago. I called a friend of mine who's been friends with me for years, and I said, do you remember when I was in phase one? She said, oh yeah, I remember. I said, what did I do? She said, you just didn't do anything. You just stayed home and stayed on your diet. And, sometimes you have to do that. I mean, it's difficult with family, especially on a holiday, but sometimes you just have to do something that's out of the ordinary. And
Mhm.
yeah. And it was funny because she also brought up time. She said, we got to the point that if we would go out and you would bring your food, I'd have a little entree or whatever with me. She said, and we would get chicken wings. They would say to the waitress, bring more garnish. She'll eat all the garnish, so, I mean, and I guess,
You certainly advocated for yourself there, Terry. That's
I
great.
guess so. Yeah.
I think another thing, it's really about your mindset. I mean, you can sit around and say, poor me, and, life is tough and we have all these obstacles to overcome. Or you can sort of say, here's a challenge. I have to travel. How can I stay on my program? I have to go to a party. How can I do that? And, I like that kind of challenge. I like that kind of puzzle. And, I think it's fun, and this doesn't have to be miserable.
Right.
You use it as an opportunity to be creative.
There you go.
Great
I mean,
point.
and truth be told, obviously being in phase two is easier than being in phase one. I mean, anybody who's listening, who's in phase one, you have my admiration, believe me. Phase one is tough. And it's difficult to be in phase two, but you can navigate that a little bit differently. But you're not in phase one forever, so it's
I'm
well
not
worth
sure
it.
about that. I feel like I have been and probably will be. It's okay.
There's no shame in that game,
No
Sharon.
shame in that. Oh, this is great. This is great.
All right. Well, I do want to say, if we've got people out there listening who are feeling like, this is hard. This is a hard one for me. I don't really have supportive loved ones around me, kind of still feeling like this is a sensitive subject. If you don't have that strong support system at home, at work, lean on your HMR community.
Right.
That's why we created our Facebook groups in the first place, so that we could connect, we could ask for what we need, we could, reach out for that support, a new idea, throwing your goals out there, somebody hold me accountable. And if you're working with a coach, I mean, we've heard some fabulous examples of how Sherry and Terri use Gina as their coach, as someone for whom you are like a main, support system for both of these ladies, Gina. It's very clear.
I can speak for, like I said, I know a lot of the clients here now, and I can speak that without Gina, I'm not so sure that we would all be as successful as we
Yeah.
are.
Oh,
And I know she's
Stop.
going to be embarrassed, but it's true. And I mean, believe me, we have a class at 8 o'clock in the morning on Wednesdays. We call it the Breakfast Club. And you would think that nobody would come to that class, and it's crowded every 8 o'clock in the morning. So
I love it.
There's a reason. Yeah, absolutely. She's really the glue that keeps us together, for sure.
All right. Gina, any last words before we draw this to a close?
I don't think so, unless we want to ask one last final question of our ladies, of our guests. Is that okay?
Go right ahead.
So just to kind of, bring this all together, kind of in a nice little bow, as they like to say, losing weight and keeping weight off is hard. I mean, we just spent an hour talking about just one part of it that's challenging, the getting support from people around you, but it's so worth it. Like, it is just so worth it. And so I would love to hear just a quick little, minute from each of you, maybe, of, what you're experiencing now that has made the hard work so worth it for you. Let's love to end that way, if that's okay.
Yeah. I'll say that I don't look at it as a diet anymore. This is what I do. This is my life. And it's made my life so much fuller. It really, really has. And it's not a diet. So I don't even think of it in that way anymore. It just, so the weight of weight is off of my shoulders. And it's a great feeling.
Yeah.
Oh, well said. I would say that too. Specifically for me, I got both knees replaced in June, which has given me back my ability to be an active person, which I always was until my weight and my joints and my arthritis got the better of me. And it kind of stopped me in my tracks. And that never felt like me. And now I feel like me again.
Great.
Great. That's so great.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible.
It was awesome meeting you, really. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you all for being with us. The community, you have to go back and read these comments. People are just saying, I needed this. This is exactly what I needed to hear tonight. Great, great ladies. Thank you. I needed this. It's all over. You just got to read it for yourselves. It's so true. What an important topic. And thank you again for all your effort to be here on this Zoom tonight, and thank the community. And we want to thank you for joining us as well. And,
thank you, Sandy.
All right.
Very well.
Happy Passover, happy
Fun,
Easter.
it really was. I
Happy
take it all back.
holidays, everyone.
Thank you.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye. Take
Bye,
care.
everyone.
Bye. We have to stay on.